Hi, this is Anthony. This is a follow-up video to the one made back in November, in which I was observing Mars and correlating it with the 666 referred to in the book of Revelation. Back in November, and in observation of Mars, I was able to make a prediction. And the prediction had to do with escalation events in Israel. When Mars goes within 30 degrees of the lunar node, historically there seems to be a correlation between that and the number of rockets fired into Israel from Gaza. So in the last video, I had gave the dates in which Mars would be within 30 degrees of the lunar node. Those dates were between January 15th, 2020 and April 3rd, 2020. Today is April 4th. So that phase is pretty much ended. And looking back, we can see that starting on January 15th, as according to the prediction, there was a rise. Starting on January 15th, there was an increase in the amount of rockets fired from Gaza into Israel. From January 15th to the end of the month, there were about 8 rockets fired. In the month of February, there were about 104 rockets fired. In March, there was 1, and that was it. So during that time, February was the month where there was the highest amount of rockets fired from Gaza into Israel. The amount of rocket fire that takes place during the months when Mars is within 30 degrees of the lunar node will exceed the amount of rocket fired for any other month during the year. So with this recent phase from January 15th, 2020 and April 3rd, 2020, the total number of rockets fired was around 113. with the majority of them being fired during the month of February. So according to what I've been presenting, the amount of rocket fire that would take place for the rest of the year will not exceed the amount of rocket fire that took place during this Mars within 30 degrees of the lunar node phase. So with February having about 104 rockets fired, we can expect that there won't be another month of this year that would exceed the number of rockets fired in February. Why? Because Mars won't be within 30 degrees of the lunar node at any other point during the year. So it won't be until the end of the year where it would be affirmed that Mars within 30 degrees of the lunar node was responsible for the escalation in Israel. But in the meantime, I think it's important that we start paying some attention to this energy, this force that seems to be responsible for a lot of tension or a lot of violence here on Earth. But even though, according to monotheism, there's this notion that there's just one God, but if there's all these forces here on Earth affecting how we live as human beings, then we have a right to take responsibility and observe and prevent this energy, or deal with this energy in a way to where, or deal with this force in a way to where it doesn't destroy us. So with that being said, in the meantime, since this recent phase has ended, the people of Earth should think about getting in touch with this energy, this Mars energy that's responsible for a lot of the problems we have on this planet, as far as war, as far as violence, as far as tension. And what I'm asking, or what I'm requesting, is that if we can start the process in getting in touch with this energy in a way that, even though we know it's going to be here, we can somehow figure out a way to keep it from destroying us. And I'm proposing that we follow the same model that Moses used in the book of Numbers when the Israelites, when he led the Israelites out of Egypt and they were wandering, when they were in the wilderness for 40 years, they had reached a point where they were being attacked by these fiery serpents. These fiery serpents would attack them, bite them, and kill them. And the Israelites, they asked Moses to intercede on their behalf and ask God for a solution to this problem, to make it stop. And as Moses did do just that, he interceded. He came back to the Israelites with the solution, and he told them, he ordered them to make an image, to create an image of a bronze serpent. And the next time all these fiery serpents would end up biting them, they could just stare at the image, not worship it, but they could just stare at the image, and if they did that, they would be immediately healed. Well, I'm trying to follow, or what I'm proposing is pretty much the same. It's the same model, that if we make an image to this, somehow form an image to this Mars force that seems to be affecting us here on Earth, that it will somehow mitigate the problems associated with its influence. So when we look at not just Mars but all the gods of war, Ares notably, Ares was a god who was wounded and healed. He was wounded in battle and he was later healed. And because of that, I think it would be appropriate to start coming up with some sort of plan to make an image, build an image to Ares, a representation of Ares, this god, the Greek god of war, who was wounded and was healed. Ares and Mars they're essentially the same thing. Ares is the Greek version of the god of war, and Mars is the Roman version. So we're looking at both, we're observing both as the same. We're observing the planet Mars, and in terms of making an image or building a tribute, we use Ares, the Greek version of Mars. So I think it would be a good plan to start coming up with some sort of way we can follow that same model that Moses and the Israelites followed when they were being attacked by the fiery serpents, and solving that problem by actually building an image to the serpent, building a bronze serpent, and then just staring at it as they were bitten. And as they stared at it, they were somehow healed. So this follows along that same line. We are going along that same, following that same path, where we're affected by war. War is affecting us. So in order to keep it from affecting us in a negative way, we're presenting something, an image of it here on Earth, and we're simply staring at it as a way, or as a plan to keep this force from breaking us, destroying us. Now if there isn't any human intervention as far as this Mars phenomenon goes, then I should give the upcoming dates for this, where Mars would be within 30 degrees of the lunar node. February 9th, 2021 to May 13th, 2021. November 4th, 2021 to January 2nd, 2022. June 22nd, 2022 to September 19th, 2022.